Today we're talking about Julie Inman Grant, who is the e-safety commissioner. We'll do a little bit of history on e-safety and how it came to be, and some of the challenges and controversies that Julie Inman Grant and the e-safety commission office have gotten into a bit of trouble for. So Julie Inman Grant, the e-safety commissioner in Australia, has worked across lots of different roles in her career. She started off as a policy analyst for the United States government. She moved to Australia in the year 2000, and during that period of time, she worked for lots of the big tech giants like Microsoft, Adobe, Twitter, and a few other roles during that period of time. But in 2017, she became the e-safety commissioner under the Australian government of Malcolm Turnbull. People do have a concern that a US person or a foreign person is in charge of such drastic powers within Australia. So what even is the e-safety commissioner? In 2015, Tony Abbott passed the Enhancing Online Safety Act for Children. It's quite a commendable thing actually, to protect children online, but we should also heed this as a warning. Originally something that's brought in as a policy can be warped and increased with powers to turn into something that is really not what it was intended to be originally. The initial focus was to protect people under the age of 18, those being children, hence the name of the act. The powers originally given were to help children and parents understand their online presence and proactively engage in safety. They could issue notices to remove harmful materials during this time, but it didn't seem to be the intended role. We can see in some old videos here that show the original intent of the e-safety commissioner, where Alastair McGibbon, who was the first e-safety commissioner, discusses the role. The focus was on education, working with parents and policy, and notably, the fact that this was solely focused on children, not adults. So in 2017, Julie Inman Grant was appointed the e-safety commissioner. In 2021, the e-safety office created new legislation called the Online Safety Act. And this drastically increased the powers that the e-safety commissioner and the e-safety commission in total have. Some of the powers that got increased were expanded protection to adults, which means that anyone over the age of 18 is now considered within the jurisdiction of the e-safety commissioner. Regulation of illegal restricted content globally. Inclusion of app stores and search engines. The basic online safety expectations. Faster removal notices. Rapid website blocking. Link deletion and app removal notices, and investigative powers. A further increase of powers came with amendments, such as the minimum social media age ban, and that comes into effect in December 2025, which is just a few months away. This is the basic timeline that brings you up to speed with how the e-safety commission started, what its original intentions were, and where we are at the moment. The position that Julie Inman Grant took on was really to protect children and provide online resources. But during her tenure, the e-safety office powers have drastically increased. I think it should also be noted that Julie is one of the most high-paid bureaucrats in Australia, totaling almost $500,000 a year in a salary. The public have questioned some of the moves that the e-safety office have done in the past, and we'll go through them. But I don't want this video to be all bad, so I'm going to jump into some of the positive things that the e-safety office is doing or trying to do, just to point out some of those positives. So one of the powers that the e-safety office has is to remove harmful material online. Since 2017, the e-safety commissioner has achieved over 90% compliance rates for removing cyberbullying material targeting children within 48 hours, handling thousands of complaints annually, and it was estimated to be about 20,000 complaints by 2023. They've also successfully removed thousands of abuse images, which affect children primarily, and offer support to victims with coordination with social media platforms and the law enforcement. Another positive is the under 16 social media ban. Yes, I put this in as a positive because I think it's actually probably good. The method of implementing it is potentially the bad thing. If you want to know more, check out my other video on the under 16 social media ban. They also develop extensive online safety resources, which includes guides for parents, teachers, and youth. And you can go to their website and you can have a look at Facebook and Roblox and Minecraft, and they'll give you detailed descriptions of what these services are and how to stay safe on them. I think this is a great primary reason why the e-safety office should exist, should be providing materials for parents. So let's talk about some of the controversies. These controversies span over a period of time and typically are intertwined with free speech. The challenge that the e-safety commissioner has and the office has is that a lot of these social media platforms are American, and Americans have free speech intertwined into their constitution. So this is a very particular battle that she's choosing with a very particular country. So our first controversy starts with Julie Inman Grant versus Twitter. So in April 2024, Julie Inman Grant, or the eSafety Office, ordered Twitter, now known as X, and Meta, also used to be Facebook, to remove footage of a priest who, for YouTube's sake, was badly poked with a sharp object. This attack was specifically said by the police to be ideologically motivated and classified as a terrorist attack. Julie Inman Grant pushed for a global takedown of this footage, and it led to a legal clash with Elon Musk, the owner of X or Twitter, and he called her the censorship commissar. I want to get one thing straight. I don't want to watch violence, I don't want to watch gore, it's not a hobby of mine. But I think what's important is that Australians can access media that allows them to observe the world around them and make decisions for themselves. If we observe the 9 News footage, we can see that they had a copy of the video themselves, and they played a censored version of TV, and it's still up on YouTube. So is the eSafety Office saying that it's okay to have private copies of this footage, but social medias can't have it on their private platforms? Because remember, if you're going to be using Twitter or X or a lot of these platforms, you need to sign up to them. You need to agree to their terms. And you should be able to look at whatever's on that platform that they decide is allowed to be there. Elon used Julie's request to justify labeling her as the eSafety commissar, which is a reference to a communist Soviet Union-era politician, implying that Julie Inman Grant is a controlling communist or a dictator, trying to control the internet. Take from that what you will. She also goes by the name of Karen, Karen being the meme of the angry white woman who wants to throw her arms around and get into fights about silly things like your dinner order. But because Twitter and X is an American company, Elon argued that they're not required to be held accountable by another country's policies, because the question becomes, which country's policies do you actually follow? Every country has different rules, and why is Australia's policies and rules more important than the American ones or Twitter's ones? And it really just becomes a back and forward fight. As a result, X or Twitter agreed to geo-block, which means that they would block it in specific regions geographically. So in Australia, this content is blocked, but it was still available for the world to see. A win for Twitter, but not for Australians and their digital rights. Back to our Twitter timeline. So the American government was paying attention during these requests and the back and forward with Elon Musk and the eSafety Office. The following year, a controversial report was released, and it was named Exporting Censorship: How GARM's advertising cartel helped corporations collude with foreign governments to silence American speech. And this report included Julie Inman Grant specifically. So first I want to establish what is GARM. It's known as a voluntary industry initiative launched in 2019 by the World Federation of Advertisers, WFA, to promote brand safety by creating a shared framework of definitions and standards to reduce harmful content and misinformation on digital platforms. Here's my sort of definition. I think it's similar to a union. The digital providers in the World Federation of Advertisers could band together and boycott industries, potentially resulting in the removal of livelihoods built off advertising if they disagreed ideologically with the company showing their ad network. So imagine you own a website like Twitter, and everyone from the WFA, or Federation of Advertisers, World Federation of Advertisers, are advertising on your sites. And then all of a sudden they disagree with something, so all of the advertisers at once pull all of their advertisements, which is how Twitter gets paid. Really, it's kind of like a union where they're banding together, but it's also referenced as a bit of a cartel in other ways. So the eSafety Commissioner was one of the main people mentioned in this report, where her position was directly named under the heading Foreign Regulations Aimed at Censoring Speech Threatening American Citizens. The report follows many different aspects of online censorship, but specifically states this. In April 2024, Commissioner Grant ordered Twitter to remove certain content from its platform, including content surrounding a poking of an Australian bishop. In response to this order, Twitter blocked the content from being shown to its Australian users. However, Commissioner Grant demanded that Twitter block this content from being shown to all Twitter users globally, a position that even the victim of the attack opposed. For the record, Julie brought this to the Australian courts, who rejected her plea to censor the content worldwide. Again, a win in some ways, but not others. The report claims this is an attempt to silence Americans' political freedom. Personally, again, I wouldn't be searching for this type of content, but I think there's an important dichotomy here that we should look at, is that the American government is writing reports about the silencing of free speech, whilst our government institution is carrying out the mechanisms to silence our free speech. To make matters worse, Julie used her power in conjunction with GARM to imply they allegedly attempted to disrupt a presidential bid. This is serious stuff. In the report, leaked emails show the eSafety Commissioner communicating with GARM's initiative leader and co-founder, Robert Wakeley, and stated that silencing President Trump was his main thing, likening the president's rhetoric to a contagion that he must contain to protect infection overall. The screenshots of these emails and this communication are in the report, and you can see them on the screen here. This is serious stuff when our person who's supposed to be representing our best interests of online safety is communicating with someone in such a powerful position in America, talking about interfering with a presidential bid, allegedly, according to this report. This wasn't the only thing that GARM was accused for. According to the report, GARM also allegedly did the following. GARM distributed non-public information about Twitter to members of companies knowing that it would lead to boycotts of Twitter. GARM prepared coordinated statements for its members urging a boycott of Twitter. GARM pressured social media companies to remove content despite knowing that its efforts were unwanted by American consumers. These are the people that Julie was communicating with. She obviously holds them in high regard, appreciates their input, and potentially, allegedly, even works with them. Regardless of what you think about Trump, the implication or allegation by the American government is that a foreign nation, i.e. Australia, was communicating with a person representing an organization with the belief that supporting Trump is a contagion, in quotes. The eSafety Office is supposed to represent Australia, but I'll let you decide what you think based on this information. All right, the other controversy that I want to cover is a bit of a spicy one, including Billboard Chris. I'm going to try not to put any of my personal opinions into this one, but I think it's interesting and important, so I've left it in. In February 2024, Billboard Chris posted on X or Twitter about the World Health Organization, WHO, appointment of Australian transgender activist Teddy Cook. I'm not going to read out this post that's on the screen, but feel free to gather your own opinions. In response to this, Inman Grant issued a formal removal notice to X, demanding the post must be taken down globally, citing its offensive nature and use of biologically accurate pronouns. Quote, "So without taking a personal position here, I'm going to try and show both sides of the argument. Billboard Chris uses technically correct language like female, and that gender dysphoria can be classified as a mental disorder in some countries. Hence, he references psychiatric wards in the post. Chris argued that his post was political speech, protected under Australia's implied constitutional right to freedom of political communication. Whereas the eSafety's official stance was that the post crossed to targeted harm by using derogatory language that could incite abuse or harassment against a specific individual, being Teddy Cook. In July 2025, a Melbourne tribunal overturned the eSafety's global removal order, ruling it unjustified. I will put a bit of personal input here. I'm a free speech advocate. I believe in the freedom of internet, and earlier in the video I indicated that one of the positive things the eSafety Commissioner is doing is taking down harmful materials. In 2024, the eSafety Commissioner's office handled complaints of approximately 34,000 URLs and posts. We've also seen that they can be wrong. So my questions are, how do we know that the URLs and posts that have been removed in this time are not similar to Billboard Chris, because his was overturned? How many of these posts and URLs have been taken down that concern freedom of political speech who don't have a platform like Billboard Chris, and they don't have Elon Musk backing them up? How many are being silenced by the eSafety Office that isn't possible to find? I've had a look around at reports and the reporting that comes out of the eSafety Office, and the reporting is very vague. It gives you the 34,000 URLs that I stated earlier. It doesn't really give any information about those posts. I think the problem becomes that a lot of these posts are to do with protecting children, if you can see what I'm implying. And that's really good. I'm a massive advocate for protecting children. So providing us with detailed statements about URLs and posts concerning those types of materials doesn't make sense. I'm not asking for that. What I'm asking for is anything that could be considered political speech, anything that could be considered freedom of speech. I would like detailed reporting on those posts that were removed. They're removing posts on the internet for our own good. There's no way for us to tell if it's actually for our own good. There's no way for us to tell or push back on any of the decisions that have been made. And I'll reiterate, we've seen that those decisions can be wrong. I believe that I should have the agency to decide what content is right for me and appropriate to view. We already have laws to protect people from violence, incitement, and many other problems that would cover a lot of the issues from online abuse. So what are we really protecting with all of these laws? We're getting things confused. We're mixing up people's protection with their ability to express themselves, and living in a society where we can't express ourselves, and we can't say that things are wrong, and we can't say our opinions online, even if it does hurt people's feelings. Unfortunately, that's the society we live in. I do my best every day not to offend people. I try to be the best person that I can be. But if you post something silly online and someone says something mean to you, unfortunately, sometimes those things happen. Thanks for watching this video, I really appreciate it. If you could check out my other ones on digital ID, social media ban, and a few others, that would be great. Hitting the sub button also helps me quite a lot. Have a great day.